Most CEOs do worry that if I focus on international markets, what happens to the organization, and do I lose focus on my domestic business? And is there a risk of taking the eye off the ball? How do you balance both international and domestic ambitions?
Okay, so I took a skunk works approach, which I think comes from Lockheed Martin, their approach. So I knew that if I tried to develop new content, new websites within the wider open university, it would just get swallowed up by the day-to-day. So I opened a new office on the edge of the campus and recruited a new team. So the team that I have looking at international focus purely on international, so they don't get sidetracked by the much larger business that is a UK domestic business.
And Ulric, I know you have an interesting counterpoint to this. How do you see that?
No. I mean, for us, the UK is of course extremely important, and I think even if I look in the future, the UK and Europe, but let's say the UK will still, let's say in 3 years' time, will be still maybe 15–20% of our business, where it is today 30%, which doesn't mean that we're not growing anymore. As I speak today, we're growing more than 80% in the UK, but we're growing even more international. What we see is that it's our domestic country, so it's where we have the most experience. So I see it also as one country where every time we are going to launch a new product, it's going to be the country where we will start that launch of that new product. So it's an exciting country. I see it really as an opportunity all the time.
Yeah. And how are you responding to people being not just sort of online, but actually on mobile increasingly?
Well, look, you have to understand that when I joined the business, I think the biggest challenge was to say, okay, how can we make it work with the technology that we have today? So I had to find an Israeli company, just two guys, crazy guys, warriors, who were crazy enough to work with our code from overseas and to try to launch our mobile optimized site, which they've done. And now we are working on the native app program and the mobile roadmap, so with a bit of a joint collaboration with our team. And with just doing this, we have now 40% of our traffic actually comes from mobile. Both a mix, actually half of it is tablets and the other half is smartphones. It might be some small numbers, but for us, 2 weeks ago, we did more than £100,000 of transaction just on smartphones, which is good when you're starting a mobile business such as that one. We are building now a total responsive business, starting, yes, from mobile view, totally. So everything is completely mobile oriented. And I'm really looking forward into what we're going to do with mobile in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm really lucky I get to see a lot of our students around the world. And a couple of months ago, I met a fascinating guy who'd just come back from Afghanistan. And whilst he was in Afghanistan, he completed his MBA with us. And I think what's really interesting, he would say that he would come back from a patrol, and he would be completely wired, and he would use his MBA studies to relax. I don't know how that works, but hey, that's what he told me. But I think my key point there is it's not just having the content enabled for a mobile device, it also needs to be available in bite-sized chunks. So people are very busy.
It does feel like there's no one-size-fits-all and kind of finding the recipe that works for you. So in the context of everything we've talked about, the next 5 billion coming on, and so on, kind of just to conclude, be really great to get one piece of advice for brands and businesses in the room here today who are looking to ramp up their overseas activities.
Okay, I'll speak quickly, but I'm going to two, if I may. So I would say very much take a market-based approach. So when technology disrupts the market, it doesn't disrupt all markets in the same way. Even if you take China, China isn't one market, it's 34 provinces, and when disruption occurs, the cities on the east, Shanghai, Beijing, act in a very different way than the third-tier cities would in the West. So one, I would say, always take a market-based approach. And secondly, and again, I've got to get my audience right here, Field of Dreams is a fantastic film. It's my favourite film. It is an absolutely lousy international expansion approach. So Field of Dreams, for those of you who haven't seen it, build it and they will come, doesn't work. You can build your platform, but you have to get your digital marketing story right. Doesn't matter how good your website is, doesn't matter how good your product is. If you don't get your message out to a wider audience, they're not going to be able to engage with you.
And Ulric from...
Well, you know, we have so many things to do just to address the first 5 billion and not the next one. But about the next is, I would say, anything that you build into the technology, make sure not to be in a closed environment. Just build a technology that will enable you to adapt to the changes. So, which is the hardest thing of anything to do, is at least build an open technology that enables, you know, at least to adapt to
evolve as the world evolves.
Yes.
And I think that sort of talks a very relevant point, because actually, despite the best forecasts, I'm not sure we all know precisely how the world's going to unfold. We know the direction of travel, so actually being flexible enough to evolve as that takes place. Thank you so much. That was very instructive, and I certainly hope for those of you in the room, if some of you felt, you know, is internationalization really for me, we would urge you to think again, because we're convinced this is the one big inflection point and growth opportunity for all businesses in the room here today. Thank you.
Thank you.